Sourdough Sam.
No,
Sourdeath
Sam.
Sourdeath Sam.
Sourdeath Sam.
Sourdeath Sam.
Disrespect to Sourdeath Sam will not continue.
What the fuck is up, baby? Ooh, lordy, lordy. For those who don't know, my name is Sourdeath Sam. If you are joining me from the TheSFNiners channel, do not be alarmed. Brad Graham, friend of the show, is coming on very shortly here.
Yes, sir.
Very shortly.
Yes, sir.
But just to introduce myself, I'm Sourdeath Sam. A lot of you know me from Twitter. Some of you are just getting to know me on YouTube. If you are ever curious about the kind of content I make or who I am, here is some info on me. That's right, folks. Go ahead and subscribe. YouTube.com/SourdeathSam. That is me. But I'm not going to pester you with the sales pitch all day because we have a 49ers Super Bowl to talk about. So first and foremost, this is a conclusion that we hoped to arrive at, but there were moments of uncertainty, especially in these last two playoff games. Starting with the Packers, it felt like an unsure situation. Going into the Lions game, sure as hell felt very similar for the first half of that game. But nonetheless, we have proven both as a team and on Brock Purdy that resiliency is a theme that we are riding with this postseason. Now, I will say I would prefer if resiliency didn't have to be the running theme here, but it is what it is. And I'm comfortable with the fact that we have a young quarterback who has stood up in the face of adversity and has executed when people counted him out. So really excited to see what's going on with this team in such a big game. Obviously, the Chiefs bring back a little bit of concerning memories, but Brad and I will get into that later. Again, once again, if you are just joining, do not be alarmed. Brad is hopping on the show. He will be on in mere moments. But before I do that, I have a friend that many of you will recognize, and he goes by the name of Kyle 5000. Kyle, first and foremost, congratulations on making the Super Bowl. We have Brad Graham on the show. Curious, what your relationship with him is, and just excited to see what we got cooking for the game plan for the Super Bowl. And may I add, your comments, very interesting.
Thanks for the congrats. Making it to the Super Bowl is huge, and having Brad Graham on the show is a bonus. Brad's a former offensive lineman with a deep understanding of the game, and his insights are always on point. We've had some great conversations about football strategies and the nuances of offensive line play. His perspective, especially coming into the Super Bowl, is invaluable. Looking forward to hearing his take on our matchup against the Chiefs.
Completely agree. And out of curiosity, we heard Jed York's comments about Brock Purdy and how you sort of ruled him above both Trey and Jimmy G. Why were you hiding that information for so long? What were you cooking? Because clearly that was big, big, big news this week. And I kind of want to hear your thoughts on what you have to say about it.
Jed York's comments definitely stirred the pot. The decision-making process around Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo was complex. And honestly, it was about timing and strategy. We wanted to ensure we had a clear picture and the right environment for Brock to succeed before making any public announcements. It wasn't about hiding information. It was about making the best decision for the team at the right time. Now, with the Super Bowl ahead, it's all about focusing on the game and ensuring we're prepared to face the Chiefs.
Absolutely. And we're about to bring Brad on, but I just want to ask you one last question. What are the three things you want to focus on in this game plan when it comes to facing up against the Kansas City Chiefs? Obviously, we don't want another rerun of 2019, so I'm hoping you got some cooking.
Facing the Chiefs, three key focuses are pressure on Mahomes. We need to disrupt Patrick Mahomes' rhythm. Our defensive line, especially with Chase Young, has to be aggressive and consistent in applying pressure, contain Travis Kelce. Kelce is a game changer. We must limit his impact. requiring smart coverage and possibly dedicating specific defensive schemes to keep him in check.
True.
Offensive execution. Our offense has to be sharp. With Purdy at the helm, we need a balanced attack, exploiting the Chiefs' run defense vulnerabilities while protecting the ball from their aggressive pass rush. These areas are crucial for securing a win. Let's get into it with Brad and break down these strategies further.
Couldn't agree more, man. All right, well, hopefully Andy Reid wasn't watching. You didn't hear any of that, all right? That's classified information. All right, folks. Well, that's Kyle 5000. Once again, if you are just getting to know me, Brad is literally about to hop on right now. I'm Sourdeath Sam. It's a pleasure to meet you guys. This is the first time that the TheSFNiners YouTube account has opened up, has offered the privilege of me gracing your airwaves. So without further ado, let me bring on the gentleman who is making this all possible. And before I do that, let me switch the audio so you guys don't get any echo. Perfect. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Brad Graham.
Yes, sir.
What's up, man? What's going on?
What's up, dude? I'm loving the dual stream right now. No one has any idea that this was going to happen, so I'm enjoying the reaction in the chat, and they're going to get the full Sourdeath Sam experience, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's something to behold. And, you know, you look at Kyle 5000, he was cooking, man. He's got it figured out. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's dialed up the game plan, and I'm curious to get your analysis as well. But once again, thank you for everyone who is joining me, who is giving me an opportunity to just hop on your airwaves here. I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead. Well, first of all, before I do that, I do have a little feature that's a part of this program. I'm curious who you think wins Super Bowl MVP. If you think it's going to be Brock Purdy, hashtag Purdy. If you think it's going to be Christian McCaffrey, hashtag CMC. If it's Brandon Ayuk, Kittle, you get the idea. Let me know who you think is going to be Super Bowl MVP, and we'll see how this works out. So if you're in the YouTube comments, go ahead. Just hashtag CMC, hashtag Kittle, whoever you think. And we're back with the homie. Okay, so let's hop right into this. So first of all, let's talk about this nail biter of a game against the Lions. Obviously, really, personally, I thought for the first half that this was over. 34-31 was the final score. There was not really any clear indication before halftime that it was going to end up this way. Let me get your just kind of overall thoughts on the Lions game that we just had.
Man, I would say as Journey took the stage at Levi's Stadium, the whole mood, it was one of the saddest I've ever experienced Levi's, because at that moment in time, it felt like the game was kind of over, but we still had an entire half to play. But it was just kind of domination up until that point from the Detroit Lions, kind of on both sides of the ball. I mean, obviously they were able to score one touchdown, but it was a somber experience. One of the most, I mean, you know, 49er fans love Journey. They play after every win. They play Don't Stop Believin'. So it's like low-key a little bit of our anthem after our win. And it was the most just lifeless crowd of 68,000 people who were hungry for a win, listening to Journey. But it turns out Journey was the only band who could save us. And after that, the tides turned.
That is so real. It's honestly, just to comment on the Journey moment, when I was hearing it in the background, like the broadcast, or whatever, it almost felt insulting. But little did I know that it was so prescient, like that it was such a prophecy of what was to come.
Right.
Because I think the game really starts to feel like it's over when the other team's sideline isn't just feeling confident, but they're already feeling like they can just pack their bags, like they're already ready to go. And you know, you've got C.J. Gardner-Johnson waving goodbye to the crowd, and frankly, at that time, I understood where he was coming from, because it certainly looked like we were being waved goodbye out of the playoffs. You know, in this 49ers team, I think one of the most frustrating things is that throughout the regular season, we'd had so many performances that felt so dominant end to end. And I feel in the Chiefs, we'll get into that in a minute, but Our regular season felt really, really strong, and our postseason has felt a little vulnerable, and especially on the heels of that Packers game, it felt like, oh, okay, like we haven't gotten over this hangover. This is really gonna take us out, and yet we were able to come back in historic fashion and make this all happen. So let's talk about the second half, obviously, because that's the fun part. When did you start to feel like the tides were turning?
Well, to your point about the sideline, it was hilarious because I did look over at the players kind of right before half, and I was looking at how happy they were and just how joyous and jubilant and just free they were acting. And I was like, man, I'm sick right now. And then Journey comes on, and then when it really turned for me, because it didn't turn right away. You know, the first drive down the field, they kick a field goal, and I was like, oh, gosh. And I found a sense of relief hearing Kyle had the same thought process.
Totally.
Basically saying in his press conference, man, when we came out of half and we didn't score a touchdown, that wasn't a great feeling. And was it right after that they got the turnover? Was that the sequence of events?
I believe so, yeah. I believe the turnover came pretty early.
Gibbs gets the fumble, and then the 49ers get the ball back. Then we have the ladybug catch occur, and then Brandon Ayuk scores that touchdown, I believe. I think I'm remembering the events correctly. But it happened after that first score. The first touchdown in that second half, it was like, oh, we're in this. We're back in this. The juices are flowing, and Levi's kind of came back to life. And I think that's when everyone really kept believing. They didn't stop believing. They just kept believing. And it really did feel like the tides turned after that.
Totally. And the one thing it was incredible to watch 27 consecutive points get hung up back to back. I mean, that's an exorbitantly impressive accomplishment. And on top of that, the only other time it's been done in an NFC Championship game was also the 49ers in 2012 when we faced up in the NFC Championship game against the Falcons. So it was cool that we kind of kept it in the bloodline. I sort of wish it didn't have to be a comeback victory, but I mean, the immaculate deflection was phenomenal to watch. I mean, It's one of those moments where you shout at your television screen because it's so unbelievable. And it was such a beautiful opportunity, or it was such a beautiful viewing experience, having those shout at your TV moments for that second half all the way into a victory, which by the way, included a clutch Jake Moody field goal. I'm just going to say that. Obviously, he missed one, c'est la vie. He's made, I believe, every extra point he's ever kicked. I'm a Jake Moody enthusiast, so deal with it. But just, I was so thrilled. And also, we can't rule out the fact that Dan Campbell also kind of shot himself in the foot. What did you think about those decisions on the Lions front?
I thought that's what really helped push the momentum in our direction because obviously I saw this really cool breakdown. I think it was NFL Films who put it out, where on that initial fourth down that they went for with an ability to score and get points, and we saw what the difference in the game was. It was 3 points, and he opts to go for it on fourth down, and Steve Wilks shows man pre-snap, and Goff and the Detroit Lions are like, yeah, this is the look that we want. This is what we're looking for. They had Dre Greenlaw all the way shifted out wide and then comes inside with the pre-snap motion. So that's an indication of man coverage. And then they roll into a zone coverage, and it completely throws Jared Goff off. And I think that was like one of the keys that we were talking, like I was talking about on my channel, is like we gotta confuse him. We gotta make him second guess his decision making, and they did it at the perfect time, showing man pre-snap, rolling into zone post-snap, and then they don't get the fourth. And again, I remember being in the stands, and it was like, that's it. We just stole all the momentum back. It was like we were chipping away at the momentum, right? Like, because I think it was the CMC touchdown first, then the Brandon Ayuk catch touchdown, and then that situation, it was like when they went for it on fourth and could have got points and didn't get it, it felt like the whole tidal wave of momentum was taken back that was currently against us. And it was a crazy feeling in that stadium that was dead maybe an hour ago. It was crazy.
Totally. And what was fascinating about the two halves is that had Dan Campbell lined up to go for it on fourth down in the first half, I would have been like, oh boy, like what else could go wrong? Like, of course they're going to get it. And in the second half, when he was trying to pull that, I was like, are you sure you want to do that?
I was celebrating. Sure? I was celebrating. I was like, he's going for it. He's going for it. Because we are, like I said, we kind of had that momentum. And if we got it, I knew we would have flipped it. And so, yeah, I'm right there with you.
And brother, it was palpable. Even not inside the stadium, the type of impact that had on the game, because clearly, I think he was way over his skis at that point, and I think he was doing it. I mean, I'm not going to question Dan Campbell because to be honest with you, I really respect what he has done for that Lions team, getting them from point A to point B where they are now. They're going to be a force to reckon with in the NFC for quite some time. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, it really felt like there needed to be a cooler head prevailing to say kick a field goal. But I'm not going to complain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because we got the W. Any last thoughts on the Lions game before we move on?
My last thought is you kind of mentioned it too a little bit with the last two playoff games. I think it's a double-edged sword, right? 49ers proved they can win the gritty games, and I do think that is important for them to prove to themselves from like a mentality standpoint. But with the Super Bowl coming up, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid's coming to town to take it to this defense and everyone else. So I would love to see them start out hot, aggressive, in an attacking mode, which kind of feels like they've been slow playing it. I don't know if you feel that way, but it kind of feels like when they've, at least offensively, just kind of feeling it out opposed to attacking, scheming. Like, it's just kind of what it felt like, and I would love to see them kind of flip that script in the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, no, I would like to see them finally put their foot on the gas in this next game. Obviously, shout out to the Lions. Frankly, I wasn't surprised that they were as tough as they were, especially in the first half. I wasn't surprised, but the level of dominance that I felt for them as a team with so many young players was pretty intimidating in the first half. And so, I want to see the 49ers overcome these demons. I mean, it was clear that when the defense did a better job disguising what they were up to, that things started to get a little bit more fortune started to turn our way a little bit better. Is this man? Is it zone? Mm-hmm. They found out when it was too late by the second half. And that felt like what we needed. Obviously, Steve Wilkes seems very compelled to fix whatever he believes went wrong during that game because our defense just didn't look like our defense. And I think we've spent a lot of years being the bullies on the block, and it felt like we were getting bullied for the first 30 minutes of that game. And frankly, against the Packers too, especially when it comes to the run game. So we really need to step up against this Chiefs matchup and make things happen. Quick note. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to add on, I do appreciate a little bit Steve Wilkes coming out. Obviously, a lot has been made about the effort of the defense and just the acknowledgement. I think he said something along the lines of that was a bit of an embarrassment. And I appreciate it, not because it's a detriment to his squad. Obviously, you want to see them perform better, just like you said, man. It was a rough half for that defense. But to the acknowledgement, the outward acknowledgement, and something about being a player And being an alpha competitor and hearing your coach say something that you did was kind of embarrassing, I feel like that could be something where you're like, all right, we gotta really step our game up. And I don't think it was a deterrent to like a shot at them. It was just the reality of the situation, because we've seen the clips and we've seen all the stuff. And I think it was an acknowledgement, it was an accountability, and this is something that we need to improve. And you can't play like that against Patrick Mahomes. You can't do that.
No. And he's a magician. I think that's the difference here, is that Patrick Mahomes is a magician. He's just not your standard quarterback. He's going to make things happen with wide receivers you've never heard of. And that's what makes him a threat in this upcoming matchup. So let's quickly move on to some in-house activity before we move on to the main event, which is the Super Bowl. Obviously, one of the most surprising comments that came out during the Jed York interview, which, by the way, Jed York, come on the show. Just a little interview. I promise I'm going to be on my best behavior.
Do it.
I'm a professional, I swear. I'm not going to – there's no gotcha journalism, no nothing. Just come on. The people would love it. Anyways.
Just a nice, honest conversation.
But honestly.
I would love to see that. And I would love to actually see a Kyle 5000 segment with Jed York. I
would too, actually. That's actually really fun. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
One side note before we get into this topic, let me actually even fold the banner, because it's one of my favorite recent memories as a 49ers fan was the video of Jed York in the locker room talking about his brother. Do you remember this?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Where he's talking about his brother who passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and he was getting emotional, and he was talking about how badly he wanted to put a ring by his grave. And man, I think honestly that was one moment for me as a 49ers fan who look, I have seen every iteration of Jed York. And that was the moment where I felt like, after he'd hired Shanahan, after he'd hired John Lynch, and when we had gotten our team to where we had gotten them, and it felt like he really relinquished this idea that he had to micromanage and put his trust in the people who were really capable of taking our team to great heights. And that moment of vulnerability really stood out to me. So I don't know. I just felt compelled to mention that. I don't know how it impacted you, but to me, it really endeared him to me in ways that I think a lot of 49ers fans felt as well.
I remember that moment. I felt like it was palpable, like the mood in the locker room. They had just won the game, and you got they all got game balls. And I remember Dr. York coming up and saying, "I know why we're getting this game ball." And I was like, damn, man. I was like, it just really hits you in the feels, because obviously it was such a tough time for their family. But to the point is, Jed deserves his flowers. It's not, you can't hold the Harbaugh thing against him anymore. And as someone who you had in your did you know portion at the beginning of the show about I think it was Trent Baalke being a reptilian or something like that.
Yeah.
The 100%. I could not stand that man, and he sided with Trent over Harbaugh, and that just really rubbed a lot of the fans the wrong way, because they don't know what's going on inside the building. They don't know the inner workings. They don't know actually the day-to-day, which led to the decisions he made. But when it's all said and done, he got Tom Sula out of there, got Chip Kelly out of there, hit on Kyle, and look at where we're going now. It wasn't perfect. It took some time, and the ability, just like you said, to give them the leash to do their job, and he's been able to do other things within the organization. And for what we know, I mean, we just found out that it sounds like it was Jed York convincing Kyle, we got to go get CMC.
Yeah.
So I think Jed deserves his flowers. Again, it wasn't perfect to begin with, but man, 4 NFC championships out of the last 5 years, stability with the GM and coach, probably arguably the best locker room culture in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
They always say the fish rots from the head down, but it goes reverse as well. He had to make changes in order to see that success below him, and he deserves credit for that.
Yes, sir.
100%.
Yes, sir.
Perfect segue. Jed York talking about how Kyle knew week 1 of training camp last year that Brock might have been the best quarterback on the team. That kind of blew my mind. I mean, because I'll say, like, I was someone who was hanging on to the Trey Lance dream because I wanted it to work, not because I was delusional or whatever. It was just because high ceiling. Josh Allen is on the cover of Madden or whatever. Like we're
round picks.
Yeah, we are projecting everything we want him to be in a state of hanging on to a state of optimism.
Right.
But then Jimmy comes in the season and plays the best ball of his life. And so it's fascinating to know that amidst all of this, that Kyle was kind of in the back saying, actually, we got Brock, and we actually think he might be the best guy. I'm not going to fuck with the depth chart. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make a rash decision here.
Right.
But just so you ownership know, which, by the way, ballsy move, kind of makes me respect Kyle even more, because like Kyle really is about that life of like
he is. He said it with his whole chest after
100%.
After training camp, like, oh, hey Jed, sorry, we just traded the future of our franchise to go get this guy, but I think Mr. Irrelevant's better than him.
Totally.
Oh,
so what was your perspective when you heard that?
Oh, I loved it. I loved everything about it. This is the type of stuff that like I love to hear as, a content creator, who covers the team. I love the tidbits, these things that go on behind the scenes that we know that there are discussions, thought processes, and all these different things that occur to the decisions that we only see, and we get on our streams and we just kind of, well, we think this is why they came to this decision, or this is where we think they're going, to actually be able to understand and kind of hear the thought process behind it, and to understand how early they were in on Brock. And then, and again, the point too that Jed said, he's like, it's not like we changed our depth chart, right? Mm-hmm. Like that we had 2 catastrophic injuries. That's how he got his opportunity. And once he got the opportunity, he never gave it back. He never gave it back to a former number 3 overall pick who was arguably the highest trade compensation given up to move and get a player like him. And they're like, Mr. Irrelevant's better. And they made the tough decision to stand on that business and make the move. And again, but I love the insight. I love John Lynch talking about it today, saying that his jaw hit the floor when he heard Kyle, because it's like in other buildings, that could be career suicide, right?
Totally.
Like other owners, like when you make an investment, that's how they're looking at it. Like this is capital. This is an asset. This isn't a player. Like we don't care. Like they care, but you know what I'm saying. It's a number on a spreadsheet, right? So when they see that asset isn't being realized, or it's a miss, it triggers a different thought process. So the fact that Kyle again, and I think that situation speaks to the continuity within that front office that we don't get to see, and again, I think it's hard to be in an NFL front office. Like again, I don't have any experience, but we've seen how much pressure has been placed on this group, with Jimmy to Trey to Jimmy to Brock. Like it's been this bouncing ball at quarterback that started way back when with Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard. And it's just been insane, right? And it's crazy that as we sit here right now, heading into the Super Bowl, I don't know about you, but it feels like we have our franchise quarterback. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, obviously the Super Bowl, here's what I will say, is that, first of all, the short answer is I have seen enough from his body of work, especially knowing that we get another effectively contract redshirt year next year. Yep. Which, by the way, is bananas. Like we couldn't. My understanding is we couldn't even pay Brock Purdy if we tried. Is that correct? Like,
Yeah, I don't think so. He's not
contractually,
eligible.
like we have to wait another year. So, my short answer is yes until further notice, because we don't have to pay him now. And the reason why I didn't freeze up there, but what happened was the moment I feel like our fan base soured on Jimmy for good was when he missed the pass in the game that shall not be mentioned against the team that shall not be mentioned, that may look familiar next weekend. That was a moment that I feel like our fan base really turned on Jimmy. Now, keep in mind there were leading circumstances that got us up to that point that I have not discovered with Brock. I say it on my show all the time. By the way, if you are just joining, I'm Sourdeath Sam, youtube.com/Sourdeath Sam. I say it on my show all the time. I feel safe in Brock Purdy's arms. When I see Brock Purdy get his feet ready, lock and load, and the camera hasn't panned yet, I don't know where it's going, I feel safe. I'm like, ooh, he found it. Like, oh, this is going to go somewhere good. And when Jimmy did that, my first thought was like, uh-oh. Like, what's he seeing? No. What's he not seeing?
Oh, gosh.
I just feel a lot more confident about the way Brock materializes his decisions, is the best way to put it. And so I, in short, feel really great about Brock, because the other thing I say often is that Brock was sort of conditioned and groomed into the Shanahan universe. It's all he knows in the NFL. And he had to know it so well in a way that a first-round pick might not have to, because if you're the last pick in the draft, you're hoping to stay alive. Every day is a struggle. Every day is a fight. I don't care what position it is. It could be quarterback. It could be any position. If you are the last pick of the draft, your future is not certain, and you better study, and you better show up, and your effort better be phenomenal. And so with the case of Brock Purdy, he's done everything we've asked him to do. And as far as his rookie slate of games, plus some change that we've seen since last year to this year, phenomenal body of work. Mm-hmm. Even the games he didn't play amazing in, guess what? He is a rookie and a half right now as far as his games are concerned. So yeah, I feel really good about Brock. As far as franchise quarterback, luckily we don't have to make that decision until next year. but I'm stoked with him. I'm happy with him. He has put up incredible numbers this year. How could I statistically argue with what he has done? And the one thing I would say is, Kyle Shanahan's car is a very intricate sports car, and it takes a very important skill set to know how to operate that vehicle. And this vehicle, in the regular season, was humming. I think the postseason has felt a little clunkier because you could chalk it up to rust. Steve Young might. I mean, he brought it up as a concern before.
A couple guys
did. So you could chalk up the Green Bay game to rust. The Lions game, I don't think he's afraid of pressure. He performs quite well when there's pressure in his face. The thing I just want to make sure of is that he is capable of not being afraid of his Super Bowl moment, because I know that he's capable of dialing it in every other capacity. And quite frankly, I think any player, whether they're super experienced or not, is going to have jitters in the biggest game of their life. But I do believe that in this particular case, Brock might have a little bit more jitter action going on. So I'm hoping he can just kind of taper that off as soon as he can, so that this offense can be efficient. And luckily, he has the rushing title holder to be able to help him get into that rhythm.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I think of the Ravens game when I've talked about that one as like a mini Super Bowl preview. When you think of as much pressure as you could put on a regular season game, I think that Ravens game had Christmas, prime time, MVP versus MVP. The winner takes all. I knew Purdy knew that. He knew it. We all knew that what that game meant. And he talked about it, right? He talked about getting a little bit too into that aspect of it, trying to make too big of plays, pressing. So I totally understand that thought process of we still have one game left, and we've seen this game, that being the Super Bowl, make or break other 49ers quarterbacks. I even think of Kaepernick. Like, I thought that Kaepernick was going to really be able to ascend after that Super Bowl loss to the Ravens. And it didn't really feel like that. I feel like he definitely had his moments where he was still proving he could be a good quarterback, but after time just felt like there was a regression. And then same thing with Jimmy. Jimmy, for the first half, was outplaying, Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl, and then had a couple miscues here or there down the stretch, and then had the opportunity to hit Sanders. And that's all we think about when we think of that Super Bowl. We think of that and the 3rd and 15. Those are the two big-time plays that when you think of that Super Bowl, those are the plays that stick out to you. And so I totally understand. You want to be able to get through this game and not have those types of moments attached to Brock Purdy, because that pressure of that moment and those individual moments can stick with you for your rest of your life, right? So I understand what you're saying. You want to see the Super Bowl. You want to see how he performs. You want to see how he manages, and you want to see how he comes out the other side.
Totally. I mean, because Brock is maybe one of the most, if not the most, micromanaged or micro-scrutinized quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Especially considering what he has done statistically this season. Everyone's sort of just saying, well, it's everyone around him, which let's not rule out that it is a stellar cast around him. But let's also not rule out that we have seen other members step into his role with the same cast and not perform to the same level. Right. Before we get into the main event, the Super Bowl, one last topic. One that came up today. Charvarius Ward wants to party.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you think about that? Charvarius Ward, Super Bowl champion, says that, hey, look, when I go out to Vegas, the first couple of days, I want to turn up.
Turn up, baby.
What do you think about that?
I think it's hilarious. I honestly, like the whole interview of listening to Charvarius talk, he's talking. He doesn't come across to me as like someone who's like PC media trained. You ask him a question, he's going to tell you what he thinks about it. He's not going to be like processing it through that realm of I'm speaking to media who are going to clip and cut and quote every single thing that I say and plaster it on graphics for all of us to talk about. So listen, I also am looking at it from a perspective of Charvarius Ward. This is his 3rd Super Bowl. He knows what this is about. Like I think there's an element to like what we've heard from some of the other players talking about what this week is for the guys who haven't been there. Charvarius is one of those dudes who's been to a Super Bowl. He knows what it takes to manage the emotions of the week, manage a media week, the cadence of that week. He knows he's been there. So I think of it more from a perspective of he's just loose. He's loose. Yeah, we turn up. We're in Vegas. Does that mean they're going to go hit the strip and go hit, the Bunny Ranch and all that type of stuff? I don't know. But I do know that they're staying like 40 minutes away from the strip. So they're trying to make it as difficult as they can on them. But again, it's like if they get in on Sunday, they have media responsibilities. I think it's Monday night, starting Monday night. Mm-hmm. After that, they're on the strip. They're probably going to go out to dinner. They're probably going to go have a team dinner at some nice steakhouse and, maybe go mingle it up at some little, I don't know. It was Monday. So I think of it like this. I think we think of it as like lock yourself into a room, watch nothing but tape for 17 hours a day, practice, go to sleep, get your full 8 hours. Don't do any shenanigans. I think a part of it too, though, is as an athlete with dealing with so much pressure, you kind of have to be human a little bit. And turning up, going and getting blacked out, and recreating the hangover. I don't think so, but I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious that he said that, and I think that people are like, whoa, what are we talking? Because the whole talking point before he got up there was, we're going to be calm, we're going to be chill, we're going to treat it like every other week. And then he's like, yeah, we're in Vegas, we'll turn up.
You know what? I think he should turn up.
Yes,
I think he should
sir.
turn up. And I'll tell you why. Because he's got a Super Bowl ring. And chances are, by the way, the Super Bowl team that he was on in 2019, they were in Miami.
They were.
You think they weren't turning up in Miami?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lord, the turn up might have been crazier. Because Vegas, it's like very regimented, right? Miami, who knows? You end up at Rick Ross's house. There's no fucking people who live in like Las Vegas, dude. Once you get into someone's house, then it's extra crazy. Like, you don't know, like the club closes at some point. Look, Charvarius Ward knows what he's doing, and I don't recommend that
That's the
Brock.
point.
I don't recommend that every player goes through this motion, but we're talking about Charvarius Ward, Super Bowl champion. He knows the vibe. He knows what the fuck he's doing.
He knows.
Let him do his thing. Who amongst us has not turned up on a work trip and shown up and gotten the job done, right? Some of us have shown up to a work trip, gotten turned, and didn't get the job done. But that wasn't Charvarius Ward. So if he has a track record of getting it done, who am I to judge what this grown man does? Just be at practice and like turn down the turning up as the week goes on, which he said he was going to do, and I believe him. So that's what I think about that. Let me see if there's any other comments. Hey, fair enough. I like that. Look, we're coming to compromises here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Turn up on Monday and then turn it down right after that. It's business as usual the rest of the week.
This is true. But Always Drip does let me know that some clubs don't close till 7 a.m. So, Javarius, just try to get some good sleep. All right, we're counting on you, man. We're gonna need you.
We need you, Mooney. I
don't know if you heard, but you're not going up against Jimmy G this time. You're going up against that dude Patrick Mahomes, who's pretty good.
Did you hear what Charvarius said? I think it was on Eric Armstead's podcast.
Oh man,
game planning against the 49ers. We just want the ball in Jimmy's hands. That's it.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I would say is that his history of game planning for this shit is like, well, Jimmy G's the quarterback. Like,
Well,
we'll
he
right.
does know Patrick Mahomes, though. That's the thing. That's another
true.
element of it is he knows this offense. He knows what they're about, and he knows Patrick Mahomes probably better than anyone on our team right now.
100%. And you better believe if there's any tea to spill, it's being spilled. We made it to the main event. We're in the Super Bowl. It felt like there were many times over the course of just even the past 2 weeks that we were not going to get here. And yet, after a 34-31 victory against the Lions, a historic comeback, which, by the way, 2 sacks from Bosa, greatly appreciated, we are now in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs once more. One thing I will bring up before we hop to this discussion is that when I think towards a comparison against how we fare against the Chiefs, I actually am not looking as far back as 2019. I'm looking at 2022, where we got the brakes beat off of us, 44-23. What's interesting about this game is 2 things. One, it was Christian McCaffrey's first game as a 49er. Second, it was Brock Purdy's first action as a 49er. So really, this was the first team. Obviously, Brock Purdy did not start the game. Brock Purdy was on mop-up duty. Mm-hmm. But that was the first time ever that this group had a chance to play the Chiefs. And I will say, even to Brock, I think that experience, even how little it was for him, I believe it was, 9 passes, of which he completed 4. That experience is very valuable to him. So now we move on. We are in the Super Bowl. Obviously, this team has gotten a lot more cohesive. We are very powerful, and even though our playoffs have been a little clunky, the momentum and our strength in our offense was very palpable throughout the whole season. When you look at this matchup, where are our strengths? Where are our weaknesses? How do we get the job done?
Our strengths come from our rhythm. And I think the rhythm is based on tempo and the way they attack. And that's why I didn't love how they started these last 2 games, because it felt like they started in low drive, and it was like, man, like let's get let's get going out the gate right away, start getting in and out of our offense, a little tempo, get moving, get the blood flowing, get some confidence. Let's move the football. Not, 3 and outs and, 1 yard rushes up the middle, just which is obviously much easier said than done. But I think that one of the strengths, it can also be a weakness, but when they're in rhythm and this team is really kind of feeding off the offense, then I feel like the defense feeds off them. And then it's like the key to complementary football with this team is if the offense is operating as it should. It feels like when the offense isn't operating, feels like it puts the defense at a disadvantage, and then everything kind of goes haywire. But as soon as the offense starts cooking a little bit, it's almost like it gives juice to the whole team. So I think their biggest strength, honestly, is when that offense is in rhythm. And when they're hitting, Kyle's hitting, it's really hard to stop them. And I think if we're talking their biggest weakness, though, it has to be how this defense contains the edges right now. I think that's my biggest concern, is just how they maintain edge control. And I think, I saw some issues with, Chase Young just shooting inside and then just bouncing right around the outside. And, obviously Cleveland Farrell isn't walking through that door, and he was a super underrated player for the 49ers in regards to run fits and being able to play that role within this defense. So that's I think my biggest concern, especially when you got a runner like Isaiah Pacheco, who is quick, fast, and tough, and runs very hard, and you're going up against a pretty solid offensive line. So I would say containing the edges and just kind of playing to your keys. When I watched that first couple drives against the Detroit Lions on defense, it just felt like they were constantly out of position, and it was a little bit concerning. And then obviously they were able to get it together in the second half, but you got 60 minutes. You don't have 15 minutes to get it figured out in this game against Patrick Mahomes. You got to be ready to roll. So the biggest thing, again, rhythm, sense of urgency, play to your keys, play to your role, and if they do that, they should be in a good spot.
Certainly. And in a sense, I almost feel like I'm hoping for a Freaky Friday scenario where our postseason version of ourselves becomes our regular season version of ourselves, and the regular season version of the Chiefs becomes the postseason version of the Chiefs.
I know
as far as their
exactly.
offense is concerned, they've scored 80 fewer points in the regular season than any other year in the Mahomes era. Their offense was less potent, like quantifiably less potent. Now, their defense made up some of that difference. Credit to the front office. They were able to sort of still find a way to balance everything out. Their defense, by the way, I believe it was the second best in points allowed during the regular season. So we love to score 30 points a game. We'll see. A little bit of a different defense than we faced in 2019 as well. I mean, this is a defense that was able to hold the Dolphins, the Bills, the Ravens to, I believe, total of 41 points cumulatively between all three of those teams. And all three of those teams were teams that we thought could just put up 50 points in any given moment. The Dolphins put up over 70 at one point, right?
Yeah.
That is a defense we did not face in 2019. But the offense is a different story if we can remind them who they were in the regular season. I think that's going to come from pressure. Luckily, the way that we run our defense, there was a great article by Connor Allen on 4for4.com. I got to give him credit for this. He broke down that against a 4-man rush, which we do often, and with zone defense, which we do often, 10 of 14 of Patrick Mahomes' interceptions have come from that style of defense.
Interesting.
So
Nice nugget.
I thought so too. That's why I wanted to make sure I gave him credit so I didn't look like an asshole. That means he threw over 70% of his interceptions against this style of defense. I'm sure this is something that Steve Wilks knows. And I'm sure this is something that Steve Wilks will hopefully find wrinkles in to make sure that just when Patrick Mahomes thinks that he knows what he's thinking, that he has been outthought. But at the end of the day, what's really going to matter as far as our pass defense is concerned is what we do best, or what we were supposed to always be doing best, which is our defensive line disrupting the whole operation to make things a lot more difficult. Yeah. Because if our 4-man rush can make life difficult for him, then we've got a lot of people behind them to make sure that they clean up whatever mess Patrick decides to leave behind, which, to be honest with you, are not a lot of messes. It's probably more magic tricks than messes. So my hope is that we do not let their run offense run amok against us like we have had running backs do for us against us for all the playoffs. 100-yard games over the course of 2 games, which is a drag. But at the same time, I think we are capable. I think if our second half defense can show up, that would be amazing. And I think that if our running game can stay strong, which, by the way, here's another interesting fact. Christian McCaffrey is the only running back who has put up the most rushing yards against the Lions. The only other person against the Lions, regular season, postseason, who put up more than Christian McCaffrey was not even a running back. It was Justin Fields. So Christian McCaffrey proved that even against the toughest run defenses, he can make it work. He is deserving of the rushing title, proving it once again. If he can demonstrate that he can set the pace against the Chiefs, I think that's a big key. Because if there's anyone who needs a little help in a high-pressure situation, and it's not because I don't have faith in him, it's just because young guy first Super Bowl, big nerves, it's Brock Purdy. So Christian McCaffrey setting the tone, our defense, letting Patrick Mahomes, it's not going to be an easy day at the office. These are the things that I think are going to help. And one last point is the Chiefs are excellent at eliminating your wide receiver one. They have proven it time and time again. Your wide receiver one is not safe against the Chiefs anymore. What does this mean? Could be a big Kittle game. Could be a big Debo game. Christian McCaffrey catching passes out of the backfield. I have no doubt that Ayuk can make things happen. He is a phenomenal wide receiver. Mm-hmm. But phenomenal wide receivers have been neutralized by this defense before. So it is important for us to perhaps diversify where we are distributing the ball. So those are the points that I see.
Yeah, and if I was the Chiefs, from the defensive perspective, I'd be trying to take away the middle of the field. I would be trying to plant my linebackers right there to disrupt all the crossing routes, all the deep in-breaking routes, and just really try to force the 49ers to beat them to the edges. Because, I mean, I think one of the biggest elements that's going to hurt the Chiefs is Charles Omenihu not playing.
Yeah.
Charles Omenihu had 11 sacks in 11 games. And when you have Chris Jones and Karlaftis, and you can somehow scheme up Charles Omenihu in one-on-one situations, that's where he thrives. And that is such a huge loss for the Chiefs. And obviously it's a net gain for the 49ers offensive line. But, man, the biggest matchup, I think, is going to be really Colton McKivitz and how much success that these guys can have as an offense, at least in the passing game, because we've seen it before. You mentioned the Chiefs game where both CMC and Brock Purdy played. That was the game where they put Chris Jones out on McGlinchey, and boy, did he have a tough day in the office going up against Chris Jones, because Chris Jones is a menace. He can rush from the interior. You can put him on the edge. He can rush over the tackle. He has so much power and that's really what Colton struggles with. He struggles with a power rush. He struggles with speed to power. And so it's going to be very interesting to see, do they keep George Kittle in to chip? Do we try to keep Christian McCaffrey in for an extra chip as well? They're going to have to get creative up front, I think. But again, if you can have a good run game and you get into rhythm and you're being able to get 4, 5, 6, 7-yard chunk runs, then you can execute play action. You can do a little bubble screen or tunnel screen to Debo, and then you get into that rhythm and you just start popping chunk runs. You know one's going to bust. You know one's going to pop. And that's ultimately what I think they need to do. If they don't get into that rhythm, that's where you're like, ooh, we can't stall. And that's where I think the pressure goes on to Purdy to then be like, I got to make a play. We're not getting the yardage we need. It's 3rd and 10. I got to make a play. And he's shown up big time in those moments. But again, this is an unknown. Just like, I mean, honestly, we know he'd been in an NFC Championship before, but we didn't see him finish it. So we got to be able to check that off. Yeah. But he's still checking things off his list of what he can do, what he can't do. And biggest matchup of the year, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there's pressure on everyone across the board. So it's going to be a stressful Super Bowl, I think. But I think it's one that I do believe the 49ers are capable of winning. But I think what we've made abundantly clear is that there are certain caveats that need to be met in order to get that ultimate 6th ring that has been eluding us. So they can do it. I believe they can do it. It's just they got to go on and execute. It's really as simple as that.
100. Why am I saying 100%? I got a sound.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got Clean Industry saying, love to see the live concurrent viewers growing, Sam. Hey, you know what? I owe a lot of this to my main man here, Grant. Graham brought on a lot of folks here. I really appreciate Graham for doing that. And if you want to know who I am, I'm Sourdeath Sam. Go ahead and check me out, youtube.com/Sourdeath Sam. But in the meantime, I got Graham in the house, dude. Brad motherfucking Graham. So, Brad, let me ask you something. What would you say, who do you think is going to have an MVP game? As far as all of these star-studded players on the 49ers, if we end up hoisting the Lombardi, Brad, who do you think is the MVP?
I think it's going to be Purdy. I think if the 49ers win it and they beat Patrick Mahomes, it's gonna have to be hugely reliant on Brock Purdy's performance, just kind of like we've seen in previous weeks. Obviously, it's going to be a situation where I do think there's going to be other producers, but as we know, MVP is already heavily weighted towards the quarterback. I mean, think about the James White game. I think when Tom Brady won it with the Patriots, I think James White scored 3 touchdowns, absolutely went insane, and Tom Brady still got the MVP. I think it's one of these situations where if Brock Purdy can lead this team, get 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, I think that's all it takes. If he wins, I think that MVP is going home with him. And then it's like the ultimate redemption, right, of all the talk all season that's been building. And it's, I mean, think of how that would benefit the NFL to have Brock Purdy be the MVP for Mr. Irrelevant. Netflix is already writing the script for the movie. Like, they're already doing it. So it's like it's either Patrick Mahomes becomes the new GOAT and is already right there with Tom Brady, or the one of the greatest Cinderella stories we have ever seen in sports history, with Brock Purdy hoisting the Lombardi and the Super Bowl MVP at the end.
So, I mean, the ultimate Cinderella story. I mean, obviously, it's total storybook narrative written up. And I think now that people have sort of accepted the fate that neither of the teams that they wanted Cinderella-wise made it, I think that they may now be shifting their hopes and dreams toward a young Cole's Cash kid who just wants to make his dreams come true.
Yes, sir.
That's
it. Yes, sir.
Let me see. It looks like, I don't know if this poll worked. Either the poll worked and everyone's thinking the same. Oh, okay, there we go. Everyone thinks, okay. People are thinking it's either Brock or CMC on the polls. So
we got a live poll that actually states in real time.
Do you like that?
I love that.
Yeah, bro.
You talk about production quality. That's fantastic.
Yeah, who got third place? Let me see. It was Debo. Yeah. I honestly,
Ooh, this could be a Debo game though too.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say. First of all, I think I love Purdy winning the MVP. I can very much see that happening. I'm actually gonna give the edge to Christian McCaffrey.
I think
because I think this is going to be a game where this robot that we gave a lot of draft picks to acquire, Christian McCaffrey, I think he's going to save Brock Purdy from his nerves so that he can snap into place. And I think while that's happening, he can do a lot of damage. That's just me. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be the antidote to some of Brock's nerves because he knows he's got a generational running back who can handle a multifaceted workload. But let's not rule out that Debo shines when the lights are bright. He shines very bright. And frankly, so does Kittle. The weird thing about the Super Bowl is that I wouldn't say I'm not scared. I'm going to be a nervous wreck, and anything can go in any direction.
I'm already a nervous wreck.
But there are some of our most important players are the ones I am least worried about. I think Debo is going to be turned to 11. I think Kittle is going to be turned to 11. Ayuk turned to 11. Bosa stepped up when everyone was like, "Where are your sacks, bro?" He came in with 2. And so
he pulled the sack out, didn't he?
He pulled the sack out against a very formidable offensive line, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
So I think it's going to be CMC, but it very well could be Purdy. And frankly, if it's Purdy, there's your answer about generational quarterback, a franchise quarterback. There's your answer right there. If he wins Super Bowl MVP, no discussion. We go from overthrown Super Bowl meme where literally every fucking Saturday, every Sunday or whatever, every time anyone wants to make a joke about something going wrong, it's
anytime a comeback drive
out.
needs to happen, you have the freaking Jimmy G walkout in the Super Bowl, or like
I don't have this. I don't have the heart to see that happen to Purdy, and I don't think it will. I think if anything, he is more likely to end up on the right side of history. So we will see how this game goes, but really, really a little triggering for it to be the Chiefs, but that's okay. I think that's it was supposed to be this way so that the redemption can be even sweeter.
I feel like a lot of this season has been kind of triggering, right? Because it's like every time we go 5 games in a row with the win, are dominating the league, and then lose 3 straight, and we're like, what the hell's going on here, man? And then we get out of the bye, and then we win like 6 straight, and then the freaking Ravens game happens, and it's just like now we're in the playoffs, and it's like nail biter after nail biter. Both those games, everyone thought we were going to lose, and somehow we pull it out. It feels like it's going to be a trauma-inducing game, but I just hope I'm hoping and I believe that we can come out on top. But any given Sunday, you never know what the hell's going to happen, man.
Exactly. And one of the most infamous moments from the end of that Super Bowl, George Kittle, I'm going to be back here with a motherfucking vengeance. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here, and we will see what we do with this time. Brad, any last thoughts before we move on to affirmations?
I think I'm ready for affirmations.
Are you ready? Let's get some good juju out there.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, 2 things. First of all, if you're just joining and you don't know who this guy is, I am Sourdeath Sam. I have the pleasure of being joined by Brad Graham right now. He has very graciously offered his airwaves for this show. If you want to know more about what I do, if you want to give me the honor of subscribing, please do youtube.com/Sourdeath Sam. I've got one more show left this season after this, and then we'll pick things up around the draft. But feel free to check out some videos, see what we're all about. Blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you what we're about to do right the fuck now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you are not familiar with the show, we do a segment called Affirmations, where unlike Twitter, we say nice shit about people. All right? Nice shit. Ever heard of that? Talking to you, comment section.
They're like, no, I never heard of that.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, let me see. Stop making it gay. Too late. All right. So this is called Affirmations. We say nice things about our players, coaches, any words of encouragement, and now more than ever is when we need it. So I'm going to put up the banner. I'm going to get the music started, and we are going to get this party started. Oh, wait. Hold on. Gotta adjust the volume here.
This is the best segment of the show, by the way, ladies.
You
and
ready for
gentlemen.
this? All right, here we go. All right, you go first.
Sourdeath sound. All right. First affirmation of the day. As the 49ers head into the biggest game of their season, all their energy, all their focus needs to be aligned, needs to be centered. And it needs to be centered within Kyle Shanahan. It starts with him. It begins with him. And as this team moves forward, I just hope that Kyle can take all that energy and manifest it into a victory. And I believe in you, Kyle. I believe you can do it. I believe you can shut all the doubters up that say you're not aggressive, you're timid, all these things. You have the opportunity to set your legacy this next Sunday against the Chiefs. I believe in you, Kyle.
Hell yeah. All right, this one goes out to Jed.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm not going to pester you for an interview. I already did that. I want to give you your flowers, man. We were not sure. We had the DeBartolos, and it was special. And those were all the special years happened. And then it became the York team. And the legacy had to be built with the York signature. And it feels as though those seeds that were planted are beginning to blossom, and they possess an intrinsic character and beauty that we weren't sure we would ever see again. And we're seeing it. And we're seeing it in such an incredible way in which we don't always see in the NFL. Which is that we are seeing ownership let the people who know football do what they do best. And for you to have the courage to put your reputation in their hands, Kyle and John, and to trust them, even when they say that fucking last guy in the draft that we picked is better than that guy we spent all that fucking draft capital for. And for you to be like, well, that kind of sucks, but thank you for being honest. That's sick. That's exactly what I would want ownership to do. Is not bug out and like pull up a spreadsheet and get into an argument about it. It is what it is. Drafting is an imperfect science. And you know that now. You've got the right people. And it's because you did that. And I appreciate it. The song is going to loop again, so just, it'll just let it happen.
We'll let it happen naturally. All right. The next affirmation in line has got to be kind of in line with something that we talked about already. And it's going to be a group, but it also is going to consist of specific individuals. And I'm looking at the 49ers offensive line. My brothers, my big boys, it's time. Whenever we hear people talk about all the weapons that the 49ers have, they love to talk about how you're a bottom tier group in the NFL. And this is your opportunity to take the stage, Jake Brendel, as a journeyman, get a start in the biggest game of your career and change the history of this franchise. Colton McKivitz, Jonathan Feliciano, Aaron Banks, and the GOAT himself, Trent Williams. You have an opportunity to cement your legacies that will last for eternity. It is time to come together and play as a unit and do what you know you can do and win this game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, all right. I got one I got one for you. And this one, I've been doing it. I do this one every time, man. Jake Moody. Jake Moody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look, you've got one of the most thankless jobs in the business. All right, you could do 99 things right, and if you do one wrong, you're all over Twitter, right? If a receiver drops a pass, whoop, we forgot because the next play is happening so fast. Kicker, you only get so many chances. You blow one, people notice. It's a thankless job. My understanding is you made every single extra point this season. Field goals aren't a sure thing. A lot of these field goals that you've missed have been blocked or tipped or things not working out your way. This is the Super Bowl, and I know you're going to rise to the occasion. I know this moment not only is not going to be too big for you, fans might be holding their breath. You're ready for it. And this is going to be the moment where you kick some field goals that shut some people up. You're going to make some field goals that people are going to hold their breath. They're going to close their eyes just like they would any other kicker. Could be Justin Tucker. If it's a clutch field goal, they're holding their breath a little bit. And you know what? I believe that you're going to make these kicks. I believe that there is a very real chance that this game may rest on your foot. And you will be hoisted by your legs onto the Las Vegas Strip to have the most ridiculously drunk night as a Super Bowl champion you could ever fucking imagine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I believe that. And you know what? Brad, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I actually have a special guest. For those who are still here, I have one message from an active 49er who would like to give some words to you.
Okay.
What's up, Sam? It's Jake Moody from the 49ers. I just wanted to say that you're doing a great job with your show, and I really appreciate your unwavering support. And the hype video that you made was awesome. I saw it. It was really cool. And also, Jason, your disregard for kickers is pathetic, and you're a bozo, and you need to go outside and touch some grass. Thank you guys for being huge 49ers fans. Hopefully you'll cheer us on in the Super Bowl, and go Niners.
Have you seen that?
No.
I sent it to the group chat. I didn't know if you saw it.
I didn't see it.
That was really him. That wasn't AI. That wasn't
Oh my gosh.
Aponte catches strays. Yeah, you better believe that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well,
Gosh.
I am so glad that we got to do this together, man. I've had a lot of amazing guests. I have had the privilege of working with a lot of people, including Aponte, who has been since trashed by this 49ers kicker. It's legend, future Super Bowl legend. But it is always an honor to have you on. So Brad, any last words for people? By the way, if you're just joining, one last get out. I'm gonna pitch myself real quick. Get out of here, guys. If you don't know who I am Sour Death Sam. YouTube.com/@SourDeathSam. If you thought today was funny, if you thought today was dumb, doesn't matter. I do this shit all the time. Go ahead and hop in. Follow me, like it, subscribe, whatever. Anyway, so that's my pitch. Brad, any last words about the matchup, about anything about the season, about what you just saw from Jake Moody, before you start signing off here?
My last words are I've already told the SDS, the Sourdough Squad, as we call ourselves, that you have one of the most underrated channels on all the 40. I mean, there's so many 49ers content creators. Please go sub to my guy. I mean, we just got an appearance from Jake Moody, Aponte catching a stray. Like, you're not going to find that type of content anywhere on the internet other than his channel. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. I have no other words about the game. Again, affirmations get me into a mood. It's hard to describe, and the Sourdeath Sam in the background. I don't know, man. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad that we could merge our streams together. I know my guys had no idea what the hell was going on, but I'm glad we just let it happen and let it play out organically. And I think it was phenomenal. And I would love to do it again.
Yeah, me too, man. I obviously you've been just a phenomenal supporter of me in the show. I tried to be on my best behavior today. I tried to do as much research as I could, so I didn't let your fans down. So I got some stats that
You did
impressed
phenomenal.
you, which I like.
You did phenomenal.
But yeah, guys, you're in great hands with Brad. If you would love to join me on any of my shows, I've pitched myself enough. You know where to find me.
Go sub right now.
But most importantly, let's be there for this team. Let's. By the way, one quick while I have the airwaves, fuck Fanatics. How dare you not have the white Super Bowl jerseys? You are out of your minds. Just had to say
no
that.
white. There's no white anywhere. I don't even think it's in the 49ers team store. There's
You're a
white
multi-billion-dollar business making products for a multi-billion-dollar business for the multi-billion-dollar event of the year, and you don't
biggest
have
event
the
of the
fucking
year.
jerseys that our team wears? Fuck. Okay. But how to get that out of my system. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and just sign off with you because this is our stream right now. Thank you all for hopping on. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us. You could be anywhere in the world, and you chose to be with us, and we appreciate that. I hope you have a great night. I hope we have an even better Super Bowl. And whatever you do for the Super Bowl, please, please, please get home responsibly and high five every single person around you because this is going to be a W and it's going to be beautiful. So just cherish the moment and have a great time, folks. Brad, anything you want to say before we sign off?
I appreciate everyone vibing out with me and Sourdeath Sam. Make sure you go sub to Patrick's channel. You won't be disappointed.
All right, y'all. Have a great night. Take care. Go Niners.